Support WrestleTalk!
Join us on Discord. Thanks for your support on Patreon. Expect a fight. Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk Super News. I'm Ollie Davis. We've got a packed show for you today, including WWE banning AEW signs, Jon Moxley shooting on WWE, or Dean Ambrose, inverted commas if you're old school, and the latest on Sami Zayn saying AEW on this week's Raw. Click the timestamps in the video description below to jump to any of those stories right now. And make sure to have a super click party. Super click back elbow Jericho style. And give us a subscribe, click the thumbs up button, and answer our question of the day down below. Do you think Dean Ambrose was wasted in WWE, or Jon Moxley, inverted commas if you're new school? Because I'll be replying to people in the comments from out of nowhere. But first, since revealing his new Yowie Wowie gimmick, Bray Wyatt has been apologizing to the various wrestlers he's feuded with and tormented in the past, saying sorry to Chris Jericho, The Shield, and oh my god, is that his new t-shirt? What is wrong with you at the moment, WWE merch department? Wyatt's latest apology has been to his 2016 Broken Matt Hardy rip-off feud rivals, The New Day, tweeting, Xavier Woods, Big E, Kofi Kingston, I forgive you guys for attempting to vandalize my home and making fun of me and my brothers. I can be a real jerk sometimes. Black heart emoji! I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? Also, Kofi is a great champ. Bray, creepy serpent emoji! With a photo of Kofi twerking with a padded ass. I always knew he was championship material. Stand down, superstar Billy Graham! And because Big E doesn't have much to do at the moment, being out injured, as his persistent perving on Becky Lynch's mum shows, he quickly replied, let Luke Harper shine and we'll call it even. Harper, of course, was a part of Bray's original Wyatt family faction, but Big E's tweet is also potentially rather close to the backstage bone. Harper publicly requested his release from WWE last month, but hasn't just reportedly been denied it, his contract has been extended for the time he missed through injury, so he can't leave for even longer. Harper hasn't been paired with Wyatt on WWE TV for 2 years now, implying Big E was actually referencing the backstage situation. But don't worry, it then got super weird, with Big E adding, P.S. I'd like to see a sex scandal involving the witch and the buzzard next episode, which Wyatt was super into. Yikes! Are you saying you want to have a slumber party at the Funhouse? Say no more, let's do it! Well, if the creepy kids TV presenter tells us to do it, Bird Raptor, I can't see how that would be an issue. It's odd for references to puppet sex parties and tense contract situations to be publicly brought up by WWE's performers, but that could be because the company is just too distracted taking everyone's signs away. Just 3 days after All Elite Wrestling's debut show, Double or Nothing, WWE responded by doubling down on segments involving the son of the owner of the company, the Omnishane. It's a smart move. But in an attempt to push back AEW's wave of momentum, fan reports from this week's SmackDown claim security were removing signs that reference the new promotion. One fan sitting directly opposite the hard cam twice held up a sign that read, "You aren't MJF," in reference to AEW wrestler MJF, who is very, very good at promos, which got a response from Maxwell Jacob Friedman himself, confirming on Twitter, "You aren't MJF." But it was actually 3 other initials that potentially made WWE mad. The same fan opposite the hard cam also had with them a Save Us Triple H sign, presumably referencing how many WWE fans are fed up with Vince McMahon's booking and want Triple H to take over creative, given how critically acclaimed his NXT project is. Fan Stephen Lee revealed on Twitter that those signs started to be confiscated from the audience later on in the show. While this could be because of the anti-WWE sentiment of the sign, one fan who was in attendance has gotten in touch with WrestleTalk to say it might also have been due to the size of the signs, and that it was blocking the view of the crowd behind. Either way, well done WWE! Totally got away with not giving AEW free publicity there! No need to draw attention to your most serious threat in almost 2 decades. Oh yeah, right, Sami Zayn directly referenced them on Raw. In the first and possibly last electric chair segment in WWE, where members of the audience were supposedly allowed to ask whatever they want of the wrestler in the ring, Sami cut a promo on the crowd's questions for not being hard enough. They could have asked him about anything. They could have even asked asked him about AEW. It was a weird tack to take just 2 nights after AEW's Double or Nothing event, considering it took over a decade for WWE to ever reference TNA on air, which was arguably a far less viable competitor. There have been conflicting reports over whether this was planned or not, oddly both coming from the same news site, the Wrestling Observer, with Dave Meltzer reporting it was a pre-approved scripted line, and his co-host Brian Alvarez claiming his separate sources say it wasn't planned, and Vince flipped out backstage afterwards. In an update possibly supporting that it was planned, while the line was cut from the version uploaded to YouTube, the AEW reference is still present in the Raw replay on the USA Network website and app. If it was a planned line with the intention of burying AEW because Sami said nobody was asking about it, it didn't work, because that reference then very much did get everyone asking about it on Google, with a Reddit post showing a significant spike in AEW searches on Google Trends following its mention on Raw. And there's only one possible explanation for it: a massively contrived global conspiracy. Former WWE, WCW and TNA booker Vince Russo, bro, has busted this whole evil plot wide open. Watching Raw on DVR, unless WWE is in bed with AEW, they have absolutely lost their minds by acknowledging them on their flagship show. Number 1, never acknowledges. Number 2, conspiracy. Not when you look at Paul Heyman and ECW being in bed with WWE from the jump, which means Jon Moxley's debut in AEW is actually just part of the larger plan for Dean Ambrose to return to WWE in a year's time. I mean, it's not like Moxley has said anything bad about WWE. Oh yeah, he cut a 2-hour shoot podcast with Chris Jericho completely trashing WWE. Gotta hand it to them, that's one hell of a work. Following Moxley's debut at the end of Saturday's Double or Nothing, where he beat up Jericho, a referee, and Kenny Omega to stand tall on a pile of oversized poker chips, wrestling, the former Dean Ambrose in WWE, Jon Moxley, has conducted a 2-hour-long shoot interview on Y2J's Talk is Jericho podcast, heavily condemning the backstage creative process in WWE. It's a fascinating listen, and the first time Moxley has publicly spoken about WWE since it was announced he was leaving the company. Comparable to how CM Punk held off for over half a year after walking out on WWE before releasing his shocking shoot podcast interview with Colt Cabana. The link is in the video description below for you to listen to the full episode, which Jericho has already revealed is his most downloaded show ever in just the 10 hours since its release. But here are its biggest revelations. While Ambrose first told backstage officials in WWE that he wouldn't be re-signing his contract over Royal Rumble weekend in January this year, as he wanted to give them a fair amount of time to plan around that on the road to WrestleMania, he actually first considered leaving half a year earlier in July 2018 when he was out with injury. Ambrose said he had been creatively ground down by WWE before the injury, particularly during his wacky Dean babyface run, where he felt they mishandled his character in the promos written for him. Like one example where he was describing how he got to Raw. They weren't things that a cool person does, not even things a guy you would root for does. These are the things that an idiot would do. Things along the lines of driving backwards on the street on a unicycle or sharing a pizza with a homeless man on the street. Just weird stuff like that. Ambrose would then have to go to McMahon and ask for it to be changed, it'd be added back in later on, and he'd be exhausted from all the frustration by the time he actually had to have his match. But while Ambrose was thinking about leaving as early as July, he decided to give it his all one more time to see if he could make it work, which turned out to be the far more serious day-release Dean, who looked like he'd just come out of prison. But while the character worked very well for the first month or so, it all changed when WWE turned him heel on the same night Roman Reigns revealed he was suffering from leukemia, which Ambrose confirmed reports that he was very uncomfortable doing, especially when his scripted promos used Roman's condition as a way to get cheap heat. And after a while, with one promo, he'd had enough. This promo also had a line regarding my actual friend who's going through actual leukemia that Vince wanted me to say, that he tried to talk me into saying. This is where I absolutely drew the line. I was like, absolutely not, no. And he actually tried to talk me into it a little bit, but I was like, absolutely not. It is the worst line. I'm not even gonna say it on air. That's how bad it was. It would have been like a thing where somebody would have had to get fired. Maybe even me. They would have lost sponsors, like the Susan G. Komen and all that. And I don't know who wrote it. I don't know if it was Vince himself or if it was a writer. And if you're listening listening right now, you should be ashamed of yourself. Dean also suspects that when after he told management he wouldn't be re-signing, they booked him in a series of angles and matches to punish him, which included being booked to take a bump for Nia Jax, lose to newcomer EC3, and get beaten up in hardcore stipulation matches against Drew McIntyre for the last few weeks of his run. And as a parting gift for the Shield WWE Network special they built around his last date in the company, Ambrose only got paid an insulting $500, which is like the minimum. What you get just to show up and not work. I think that's what extras get. While Moxley was very thankful to WWE for putting him in the position he is in now, he hopes the competition from AEW will force them to overhaul their product. I'll put a challenge to McMahon right now. Your creative process sucks. Change it. What the hell is Pokemon Sleep? It might just be the weirdest game ever. Find out all the craziness by clicking the video on the left for El Fakador and Chopper Pete's new video game series, and find out Moxley's first official AEW match by clicking the video below that. I've been Ollie Davis, and that was wrestling.